this video, I am going to cover the PowerPoint on residential roofs. We will cover roof types, we will cover roof materials, and roof framing, amongst other items. So let's get started. Before we start to draw roofs in Revit, we need to understand roofs. That's where we're going to begin to talk about residential roof designs. There are lots of different types of roofs, and the main uses for roofs are to protect us from the wind, the rain, the cold, the sun, the heat, the dust, etc. The roof also can impact on how your home looks. It can completely change the look of the house. If you have a sloped roof versus a flat roof, the look of the house is going to change greatly. There are many standard styles to choose from, and basically what you want to make sure is that the style of roof that you pick fits with the style of the house that you designed. The house that you see kind of in the middle on the left has a clay roof tile on it. That's because it's kind of a Spanish style house, so that fits with it very well. The one in the upper right hand corner, that has a very low pitched roof, kind of has the arts and crafts type style to it, so that fits with it. The one on the bottom right is a very contemporary, so the roofing system works well with that. The roof design and roofing materials, again, have a big impact. I think we looked at this one early on in the semester. This one has a mix of different types of roofing on it. Doesn't look the greatest. I always reference this picture as hoping that they're in the middle of a remodel and they're just doing a little bit of roof at a time. But again, it can really affect the way that your home looks. So there are different types of roofs. There is a hip roof. A hip roof basically on the end slopes back and has roofing material. That is why it's called a hip roof. So you have wall material up to the roof, and then you have roofing material before that. A gable roof kind of is opposite of that. The roof just continues on straight, doesn't have a slope at the end, and the wall material goes up into the peak of the roof. So gable roofs are very common. A lot of times we like to do gable roofs and we like to put some kind of decorative window in that gable, or a window that's taller in a room or something like that. So that is a gable roof. A shed roof basically slopes from front to back in one direction. A lot of shed roofs have a lower pitch on them, but that doesn't have to be that. There are certain requirements depending on what roofing material that you're using, that you do have to have a certain slope to your roof. Flat roof. No roof is ever completely flat. Keep that in mind. If we have a completely flat roof, you're going to have nothing but problems. Water's going to build up on it. It's going to eventually leak. All roofs have a little bit of slope to it. Also, for a flat roof, you're going to use a different type of roofing material. You will not use like a shingle. Usually it's a built-up roof. We'll talk a lot more about that in the commercial class. A-frame roof. This has an extremely high pitch on it and comes down very close to the ground. You see this a lot on the lake, at resorts in Colorado, places like that. Again, keep in mind, the steeper your roof pitch is, the more expensive your roof is going to be. Once you go up above about a 9-12 roof pitch, your cost is going to go up greatly. And there will probably be a lot of roofing installers that won't even do your roof because they're not insured to be able to do that. Gambrel roof, I think I've mentioned before, this is kind of the barn roof. It's not my favorite roof. It has two pitches on it. It has typically a higher pitch and then it goes to a lower pitch. This can make for some nice spaces up in attics. The Dutch hip, this one kind of reminds me of Pizza Hut, the way Pizza Huts used to be. You start with a hip and then it has a small gable in the end of it. It just gives it a different look to the building. Dormers. Dormers are used a lot today. Dormers used to be used as true dormers, meaning that you were utilizing the attic space to provide light, extra headroom in your attic space. Today, some of the dormers are there just for looks. They're not true dormers. There are all kinds of dormers. As you see, the one on the left, that one is a hip type dormer. The one on the top left is a gable dormer. The one on the top right is definitely a hip dormer. The one in the middle is a shed roof on a dormer, and the one on the far right we call an eyebrow dormer. Kind of has the shape of an eyebrow. You can use mixed roof styles. This one isn't too awfully bad. They've used a shingle with some metal roof just to kind of give it a little bit of accent. So again, you can mix roofs together. Just make sure that they complement each other. This one has a hip and a gable. Again, this one kind of has a pediment on the front of it, if you remember that terminology that we learned early on in the semester. So again, trying to complement. The pediment helps to say entry on this house, and then the rest of it is very simplistic. So understanding how a roof is put together. Roofs are pretty basic most of the time around here. You have to have framing that holds the substrate, that holds the roofing material. Whatever you decide you're going to put on your roof, you need to know that early on so you make sure you design the structure appropriately. If you're going to put asphalt shingles, or you think you're going to put asphalt shingles, and then the customer comes back and said they want to use like a granite tile, that's going to change the whole structure of your house, because the granite tile weighs a lot more than asphalt shingles, and it probably was not designed for that. So your framing must be strong and rigid, and there are different elements to the framing. If we look at this diagram, typically in most houses you're going to have a clear span. That is the bearing walls from wall to wall. And then you're going to have what we call the run. How far over does the run go horizontally? And then you have the rise. And in this case you see the run is 12 units and the rise is 5 units. So this means it has a rise and run of a 5-12 slope. We typically always base the slope span based on 12. The slope triangle on the left is the way we typically show the roof slope. On this particular drawing, you see there is an overhang. Your house will need to have an overhang unless you're doing a flat roof of some sort. Again, most of the time in this part of the country, we always have a overhang. So roof slope is the slant of the roof. It's shown on the drawing as a slope ratio diagram and fractional pitch. The slope diagram represents the ratio between the rise and the run of the roof. The run is always expressed as 12 units. So like I said, you would have a 7-12, a 6-12, an 8-12, a 9-12, something along that line. Roof overhang. Most every house needs a roof overhang. There are instances where an overhang would not be needed. If you look at the diagram on the bottom, that house does not have an overhang because it probably has some type of a parapet, and the roof sits down in lower into that. Typically it's between 18 and 24 inches, and again that can depend on the location. It keeps water off the walls. That's one of the reasons. The other thing is it protects the exterior finishes, windows, and doors. Keeps rain out away from the foundation, and it reduces the splashback from the ground. And it can also provide shading. Overhangs are very important. So there are different ways to frame the roof. One of the most common that's used a lot today is a roof truss. And basically a roof truss is a simple assembly of members forming a rigid framework of triangular shapes. They are less expensive than rafters in most cases because they are made in a factory or in a manufacturing process. They can make a lot of them very quickly. As far as installation, they're a lot easier to install than rafters are. Smaller members that are engineered to provide similar strength and definitely more efficient in both materials and labor. Rafters, these all have to be calculated, they have to be cut, and they have to be put together. The rafter is a structural element of the roof that supports the sheathing. Common rafters are perpendicular to the wall plate and extend from the ridge, meaning it goes from the middle down over to the wall. There are several other types of rafters used in typical construction. Rafters are often shown on a roof framing plan. Rafters are cut to the proper lengths by locating the ridge, seat, plumb, and tail cuts. Basically, you have to be very good at math to be able to figure out how to cut the rafters properly. The slope of the roof and the clear span of the building determine the layout of these cuts, and you need to still know the terms rise, run, and clear span. Typically, we like to ventilate our roofs. A lot of times you're going to see some kind of a vent sometimes in the end of a gable. Those aren't always there for actual ventilation. A lot of times those are just fake vents to add decoration to the house, but we do need to vent our attics. If you've ever been in your attic in the summertime, if it's 100 degrees outside, it's probably 150 degrees in your attic. Same for winter time. So we like to have air circulating. If we don't have air circulating, we also can get condensation, which can cause mold. So a lot of times you're going to have a ridge vent for ventilation. You may have soffit vents in your soffit, could have gable vents like these on here. So here are the different methods. The gable vent, again, you have a gable on each end and the air circulates through there. Eave vent, that's up in the soffit where you have some kind of ventilation that can get up and down through there. Roof vents. A lot of houses have roof vents directly on the roof. Cupola vent, we don't really use those much today, but again, that is an option. And then the ridge vent is also very commonly used today. So this is an example of a roof framing plan. You can see we have different things called out on it. You should be familiar with all the different terminology and location of each of these parts of the framing. So we have it framed. Then the next thing they have to do is they have to come in and put like a board around it, just like we did on our walls on the exterior. We put an exterior sheathing. We're going to put an exterior sheathing on our roof. This helps hold it together and keeps the framing all together. And then there are different residential roofing materials. Very common around here is an asphalt or architectural shingle. There is a difference between the two. An asphalt shingle is smaller and is usually less expensive. An architectural shingle is larger and is a little more expensive, but it lasts longer and usually have better colors and such to pick from. Metal is becoming extremely popular today, so that is always an option. Clay and cement tiles, again, those are very heavy tiles. They're really good for places like in Arizona and stuff where it gets cool at night, so that clay will hold in the coolness and help cool the house during the day. They make manufactured clay and cement tiles that look like that but don't have the weight associated with them, and they would not also have the characteristics of that. But if you wanted that style, you could get that style and not have to have a much stronger structural system, etc. Wood and cedar, we don't see that very much anymore because insurance companies will not insure houses with wood or cedar shake shingles on them. And then slate is another option. Slate, again, is very heavy and it's very expensive. So if you're going to use something like that, you might want to go with a man-made product that gives you the same look but be less expensive and not as heavy. So metal roofs. Like I said, metal roofs can be less expensive. They're more durable, longer lasting. You don't have shingles blow off. Sometimes, depending on the material, they can be pricey if you go with a copper or something like that. There are many colors, there are many types. Just make sure wherever you live that you're getting the right type and that you put the right slope on it. Particular materials for roofing will only be warranted up to certain slopes or down to certain slopes, so you want to make sure that whatever you're putting on there that you get the warranty with the product. Clay and cement tile roofs, we kind of already talked about this. These are used a lot in the Southwest and in Mediterranean homes. They're extremely durable. They're found in warm climates, but they can be used in cold climates. You can get products that are designed for freeze-thaw cycles so they don't crack and break. They are very heavy. Roof structure must support the weight. Typical asphalt roof weighs 230 pounds per square, which is a 10 foot by 10 foot area. A tile roof can range from 580 to nearly 1,100 pounds per square. So it's at least doubled, tripled, quadrupled the weight. So you have to take that into consideration. Asphalt shingles, again, most common roofing material is the 3-tab asphalt shingle. It's one of the least expensive, comes in a lot of colors again, both solid and blended. Should last between 20 to 30 years. You can upgrade to the architectural. As I talked about, it's twice as thick and staggered, so it gives a heavier, more substantial look and can resemble slate, and other colors can resemble wood shakes. So again, with the architectural, you have a little bit more flexibility in how it looks, but again, asphalt shingles are very common. Wood cedar shingles, very nice look. They come in different species, has to be an outdoor type material. They are thick, and you have shingles and you have shakes. So they are different. The shingles are smooth and cut uniform thickness and vary in width. The shakes are thicker and rougher. They are expensive to install and require maintenance. And again, in most places, insurance companies are not going to insure them, but you can get products that look like them that are not actually wood. So you can still get the same look, but with a different product. Slate roofing. Again, like I talked about, it is typically found in the Northeast. It's a high end, typically. Lasts forever, it sheds ice and snow, it's heavy, it's very expensive. You can get engineered products. If you look over on the right, you have an engineered slate roof. This is about 1/3 of the weight and cost, and it can last just as long as a regular slate roof can. Flashing. So any type of penetration that we have on our roof, we have to do what we call flashing. Flashing is usually an aluminum type material. It can be made to where it's the same color as your roof or as whatever you're trimming. It's used to repel water from areas of potential leakage. Should be used where all roof contacts a wall, chimney, floor, or roof valley, or at any roof penetration. Flashing may be metal or 90-pound roll roofing, and proper flashing must be installed. Biggest mistake you can make is not to put in flashing. Flashing will keep you from having roof leaks. Chimney flashing. If you're going to have a chimney, you have to flash around it. What you don't want is water coming in between the materials. So again, you have single flashing and counter flashing. You can look at the diagram here and it will show you what that means. Valley flashing. When you have two roofs that slope down and come to a point, before they put the roofing material on, they're going to put a piece of flashing in that joint, and then they'll put the roofing material on top of that. It should come back up under the roof about 12 inches on each side so that water cannot get back up underneath that. Drip edge flashing, again, where you have your fascia and your sheathing material come together. There should be some flashing in there before you put the roofing material on. Again, this keeps water from coming up underneath the shingles or the roofing material and keeps your roof dry. Gutters and downspouts. Gutters are usually put on the low side of the slope of the roof. Again, you can get those in any color, lots of different shapes, lots of different sizes, and then they usually have a very small slope to them that goes back to a downspout that comes down the side of the house and goes down onto a splash block. The gutters basically collect water from the roof and direct it to the downspout. They're sloped about 1 inch per 20 feet, so it's not real noticeable that the slope on them, but they do have to slope. They come in copper, vinyl, aluminum, galvanized steel, and like I said, you can get them in all different sorts of colors and stuff. Again, they come in different shapes and sizes. Typically, whoever you buy like your siding from or your soffit fascia materials, they carry the gutter also. So we can use roofs as a sustainable space by letting in natural light. So you can have skylights, you can have like a sloped roof like this that actually has windows in it, that type of thing. So we can actually use our roofs as sustainable. They even make shingles that are solar panels that you can put on your house. Here's an example of some solar panels. These are not the most attractive kind of solar panels, but they do make some that actually look more like shingles. Of course, they're pretty pricey. These types of solar panels have come down quite a bit, and if you're just building a house, you might really want to consider solar panels. You can get them for really cheap right now, and over a long term, you can actually get your money back in them. The other thing is to go with a light colored roof. We've always been notorious for using dark colored roofs, which soaks up the heat, which makes us have to do more cooling to get our costs down. So again, going with a lighter roof would help you on your energy costs. So that is the end of the roofs PowerPoint, and now we will go directly into how to do a roof on our house.